Two former Hartford mayors speak out on Perez. Next. Welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop in every week. Almost 30 years ago, Thurman Milner was elected mayor of Hartford. He was the first African-American to be popularly elected as a mayor in New England. Today, Milner and his successor, Carrie Saxon reflect on the plight of another three-term mayor, the recently convicted Eddie Perez, and they offer their suggestions on how to restore trust at City Hall. In our second segment, entertainment attorney James Walker talks about the one-year anniversary of Michael Jackson's death. The King of Pop's legacy continues. Then we'll wrap things up with some sports chatter from one of our regulars, Scott Gray from WTIC AM. Is it time to break up the Celtics? But first, a former Hartford mayor. It's rare to get both of you in here, Milner and Carrie Saxon. Last time you two were together was in Denver for the Obama speech. Welcome.
Historic.
This is historic here in Hartford, right? A mayor goes down for corruption. Both of you former mayors, 81 through 87, 87 to 93. Your thoughts on the conviction of Eddie Perez?
Well, I sort of was disappointed because, you look at the history of mayors in the city of Hartford. He was a good mayor. He was doing an excellent job. And to get caught up in something that trivial to me I was very sort of disappointed. I've known Eddie for many, many years, long before he became mayor of the city of Hartford. And he is basically a good person. But with the ethic laws that, impact elected officials, you can get caught up into things like what happened with him.
Mayor?
Yeah, it's a tragedy. It's a real tragedy, and I'm very biased, having been mayor, and I guess Thurman and I both realize the constant pressures, and especially if you're first in anything. So I have a great deal of sympathy for the pressure and the stress of Mayor Perez. And I think it's like a real human tragedy. And what bothered me the most about when the verdict was handed down, in some parts, there was celebration. I don't know how anyone can celebrate a tragedy, because it's not only a tragedy in terms of a personal tragedy, it's a tragedy for the city. And it is important that we always, always keep that humanity in terms of what happens to people who want to be public servants. It's really very heavy.
Do public officials become entitled? We've seen time and time again here in Connecticut, John Rowland admitted that you become in office, you get there over a number of years, you start to think, gee, I'm doing a good job. What's the big deal by getting a box of cigars or having my kitchen counters done? Is there an entitlement that you have to put in check when you become in power?
No, it's not entitlement. What happens, if you look at the corporate community, they can do that, and it's not a crime. So a lot of times people that come into politics don't really realize that they're breaking the law because of the ethic changes. We don't get a book to study ethics when you become mayor. There's no one to actually rehearse you and go through all the legal issues that a mayor may face. And it's very easy to get caught up in that. Like I said, if he were a corporate attorney or a corporate president, he would not have been found guilty.
You raised a very good point. A lot of folks who come in from the business sector say, you know what, let's run government like a business. But as you mentioned, Mayor, it's not a business. It's a public service. And things you do in business can get you in cuffs in public service. So how do you change that? What do you do about it?
First place, I guess we have additional pressure. Thurman and I, first being black. So the spotlight
scrutiny is there.
And the
same happened with Eddie.
Are you aware of it more as someone who's of color? Are you aware of it?
Very much aware. I was just thinking, when you talk about entitlement, I don't ever anybody hardly paying for my lunch. You'd be really very careful because you are under the spotlight.
It is
spotlight. Being a first in any field is very, very difficult. Being a first.
The line between patronage and then corruption. The issue of a parking lot deal for a political operative to have him run. We know that the history of the city, Abe Giles has been taken care of throughout past administrations.
Well, you got to wait a minute. When you say past administrations, that includes us. And, you know, and Abe is a friend of mine. We've been on different sides of the fences, but the city is so small, you just move back and forth in terms of your alliances. But past administrations, you have to be more specific when you say that. My goodness.
Your phone ringing?
Yeah.
Tell them we're on the Stan Simpson show right now.
I know it.
Let's talk about that. Abe Giles.
Yeah, but one of the things about, you know, doing our administrations, we had a different form of government. We had the government where the city manager basically handled those issues. It wasn't until we went into the strong mayor form of government that all fell directly under the mayor.
Right.
So therefore, neither Carrie nor I had anything to do with parking lots or any other business part of the city. The city manager managed those things. We were the public servants that dealt with the public.
And the city council had a lot to do with it.
Okay, well, let's talk about jobs. I mean, I hear you saying that you had nothing as far as parking, but I mean, patronage, let's talk about just jobs. When you come into power, if I come into power, you're going to hire your own people. There are people who help you get elected. There's certain things that you do in exchange for that. That's patronage, right? This happens in every administration in America.
You surround yourself with people you can trust and rely and depend on, and most of them come out of your campaign. They work for you year-round in your campaigns. You get to know them. You get to know their abilities. You get to know what their capabilities. And those are people you first look at to hire, not family members or a person next door, but mainly people that have worked for you or helped you out, or you know them, or they've been referred and have good credentials.
Loyalty is paramount. Loyalty is paramount in terms of, see, things just, you know, are really lopsided. When Thurman and I were in office, the council had much more authority and much more authority in getting things done and giving jobs out, and it was difficult. And one of the reasons I ran against all of the council people, because I thought it was lopsided, and I was definitely a supporter of charter change.
In about 30 seconds, charter change, strong mayor. Is this an indictment of just strong mayor, or what would you do right now to fix strong mayor?
No, number one, I think it is important that we maintain the strong mayor type of government in the city of Hartford. If you look at just what happened with the present mayor, if you look at his entire administration, that was just a small area of that area. But the charter change is very important, because when Carrie and I both were mayors, people looked to us. You know, they never went to the city manager. Anything happened in the city, they called the mayor's office. It was always on the mayor's.
But the issue is checks and balances, though. The issue, they went to strong mayor because the feeling was you didn't know where to go to under the previous administration. Now, so strong mayor's here. Now the problem is, are there checks and balances to make sure there isn't too much power?
There are checks and balances.
Well, how does the mayor cut a deal? We've got 30 seconds. How does the mayor cut a deal, circumvent the council, cut a deal for parking, and no one can do a thing about it? Should that happen?
Something was done about it. You know, I mean, something was done about it, because the parking deal didn't get through, because there are checks and balances. You can't have a lazy council. You know, people saying he did
let's talk about it, because that deal did go through. This is why he's going to jail. I mean, that deal went through with Abe Giles.
I think one of the things that happened out of that...
He had a parking lot deal, and that's why we're here. So that did go through. So the question is, can that happen again under another administration? How do you stop that?
What has happened, I think, is very important. They brought in the parking authority.
Right.
And hopefully all parking in the city of Hartford will now go under that authority.
Yeah, but I have a problem with you saying that the deal went through.
Okay.
Because if a deal went through, then Abe Giles would have a parking lot. He doesn't have one.
Well, but
it was, you know.
If he's not following the trial, he did have. Well, listen, we have about 5 seconds. We'll change gears. Pedro Segarra.
Since it's your show, right?
and your phone's ringing. Pedro Segarra, new mayor. Your advice to him. You guys have been in that seat. Your advice to the new mayor in about 30 seconds.
Number one, I think he's a cool-headed person. I think he should keep a cool head. I think he's headed in the right direction by looking at who's he's surrounded by right now as mayor. I think he's been on council long enough to know the ins and outs of City Hall. And I'll be more than glad, and I'm sure Carrie would too, if he wants us to advise him, we would be.
He was corporation counsel when I was mayor, so I knew him from the past. And what he should do is those letters of resignation that he's asked from all of the folks, he should keep it in his drawer for a while till he see how they're performing and what do they believe in terms of his mission.
I think should go right away.
All right, okay, listen, well, you know what? We get that next segment. We don't have much time, but next show, find out who you think should be fired. We got to go now. Another segment coming on. When we come back, entertainment attorney James Walker comments on the 1-year anniversary of the King of Pop. What's next for the Jackson family? You are watching The Stan Simpson Show. Don't go away.